So today we're going to watch Simon Dan because it's Friday. And he's going to talk about another person who thinks that they have debunked NASA. This guy thinks he's outsmarted NASA, that he has outmaneuvered NASA, that he knows more about space and science than NASA, and he's going to flat Earth educate us, I'm sure. And Simon Dan is going to do what Simon Dan does, which is break this dude down into little pieces of what the fuckery, which is always a good time. Let's be absolutely honest about this. I enjoy watching Simon Dan tear these people down all the time. I really do. The thing is, I have to mentally brace myself for these videos every time because the amazing lack of intelligence, but the arrogance to assume that they know so much from people who hold this flat Earth debacle in their head is actually mind-numbing. So we're gonna get into this one, and let's see. I mean, it's only 13 minutes. We'll see. We might just jump right into Guild Wars 2. That's what I was looking for. Just because we have a week. In 1 week, I believe, is... actually, I should be able to see it right here, right? See, it says expected 6/6. Yeah, we know. But at the same time, pre-order gets you... Fuck this. I don't want to deal with it. Early access Diablo 2. I want to say it's Friday, just to make sure. Fucking Diablo 2. What an idiot. Diablo 4. I can't believe I just nonsensed myself into bullshit. Slated full launch on the 6th. Early access. Okay, look, I don't want to have to open up your article to read with a fucking answer to my question. Early access begins June 1st. Oh, snap, son. Oh, snap. I thought it was June 2nd. It's apparently June 1st. So that means we have today, tomorrow, Sunday, and then Wednesday. I want to be level 80 in Guild Wars 2 before Thursday next week, because Thursday next week is when that early release, or early access, which we have because of how I ended up going through and just upgrading my Diablo 4 until it had the best one or whatever. The thing is, we're just going to have to watch this, see how it goes, because hopefully we get there. We're just gonna watch this one video, and then we're gonna jump in. That way we can get as far in Guild Wars as possible. That's the plan. Now that I know I'm a day less on time than I thought. I could have sworn I saw the 2nd. I was wrong. Memory like Swiss cheese. Yeah, he chose not to wear the seatbelt. Guess what? You shouldn't force people to make choices in a country that's supposed to have free choice. Educate us of the repercussions and allow us to choose what to do. I hate that shit.
Jeffrey Walensky, who was claiming that planets are nothing but old stars. Here's a quick clip if you don't remember or haven't seen it yet.
And I was thinking to my geology class, I realized that Earth had a giant iron nickel alloy core too, and then boom, it clicked. I realized that Earth was an ancient star.
Holy fuck. Earth is an ancient star that orbits another star that orbits another star. That's this dude's thought process, is that it's just an ancient star because it has the same core. Like, oh my god. I didn't expect this to be the level of dumb. Like, if you just look at the way that things orbit stars, right? Like our star, the sun, would be sensible through the model of the theoretical model of how things in space form, which is you have gases that are all meeting up, smashing into each other, and creating gravity. This becomes a star, and around that star that ends up with fission somehow through this collision of atoms. You end up with fission, creates gravity, gases come in, like it pulls in gases, fuels the star, grows, becomes whatever kind of star it is. Then you have and the size of the star as well. And then you have that gravity mass starts pulling in more atoms, bigger debris, and then you get asteroids and comets that are passing by that get caught in the gravity. They collide with each other, things of this nature. And basically, over time, you end up with planets. That's the current theory. This guy just said that planets are dead stars because of the core of the Earth. I don't think he's read a single book that a scientist has written about space and the way that we believe this has come to be, and he's just got his own theory in his head without any actual study beyond this.
That is a tremendous leap. Well, Jeffrey is back, you'll be pleased to hear. And
Wow.
this time
Oh, okay, that was his old
NASA
video.
and Caltech.
Oh my god, I'm so happy that's the old video. Holy shit. I didn't catch the transition, I guess, but oh my god. That's the level of dumb that we are going to be contending with, taking on NASA today. All right, let's go.
How planets form. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we begin, say a huge thank you to the sponsors of today's video, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark is a VPN service that makes online privacy protection easy and attainable, encrypting all internet traffic sent to and from your devices and ensuring that your IP address remains hidden.
Oh, I didn't turn on my light. I hit the wrong button. I'm
of
all
that,
kinds of fucked up today.
hackers,
There we go.
and phishing attempts. And unlike other VPN services, you can use it on as many devices as you like, simultaneously. Yes, I call myself a YouTuber nowadays, and that means I spend a lot of time online, up to 8 hours per day sometimes. The internet knows a hell of a lot about...
Oh no, 8 hours a day online sometimes. He's really getting up there, guys. Really getting up there, I gotta say. I don't know what I would do if I only spent 8 hours a day online. My fucking god, my life would just collapse. It would crumble. I stream for 4 hours. That's just streaming. That's just me making content. Then after that, I play games that are online that I'm not streaming. Like, I don't stream WoW. I play it. That doesn't include the amount of times that I'm just sitting on a toilet and fucking around on my phone. That doesn't include, me just hanging out on my back patio, scrolling the internet, sitting in the sun. That doesn't include... I don't know if you would even count this, but some people do. This doesn't include, however, me, listening to podcasts or Spotify or anything of that nature while I'm exercising on my back patio or swimming in my pool or doing whatever. That doesn't even include me just on social media. I'm hitting half this guy's time just strictly within streaming. Holy fuck. He's probably got a real job though.
about us, which is why we should care about our online data. You can use Surfshark to encrypt your personal information and send it via a secure VPN tunnel so no one can see it without your permission, which is perfect for things like protecting your ID. Now, ID theft is an increasingly common and scary...
I like his shirt, by the way. I like that his shirt is his silhouette mirrored, kind of, because his hair goes off this direction, but it's going off this direction. And it says, not flat, with behind his silhouette, or through his silhouette, the global Earth. Imagine.
You can use Surfshark.
Fantastic.
HackLock system.
That's a good shirt.
Anytime your email address or password is compromised. HackLock will scan various databases of leaked information and then notify its users if their data is found so that they can take action. Click on the link in the description or go to surfshark.deal/SimonDan and use my code SimonDan to get a whopping 83% off and 3 months extra free. Right, back to today's video, which is Jeffrey Walensky having the balls to tell NASA and Caltech that they are wrong regarding the formation of planets. Oh, if you like this t-shirt, by the way, it's available on my website. I'll put the link in the description. Right, let's
There
join
you go.
Jeffrey as he starts his lesson.
So I found a new diagram.
Jeffrey's giving lessons. Does he actually? I hope he. Is this down here? No. Damn it. All right. I was gonna say, or I was actually gonna just click a link, go to this dude's video, and then be like, oh my god, he actually called it a lesson. But I guess we'll never know. Oops. Double click.
To my listeners, I get a little bit more views than I used to. Hopefully, I can get people's money's worth out of these talks. This diagram right here.
You charging people money for this nonsense? Oh, is this where we get the finger of uncertainty?
Assembly line of planets. The diagram illustrates how planets are assembled and sorted into two distinct size classes.
Mm-hmm.
Credit NASA, Kepler, Caltech by R. Hurt.
Basically, what I said earlier is the general summary of how it works without a diagram to help you out.
Now, I can share this freely because, well, guess what? I give NASA money through my taxpayer dollars.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Oh my god, people are fucking dummies.
What's up?
So, Jeffrey, I believe, thinks that most of the astronomy that we know is wrong. It will be very interesting to see what his issue is with this.
Anyways, assembly line of planets. The diagram illustrates how planets are assembled. First, the rocky cores of planets are formed from smaller pieces.
Yes, we call those planetesimals.
Then the gravity of the planets attracts the...
I'm not gonna just, dump weird science words like planetesimals on you. I'm not gonna do it. Because, one, I'm not a scientist. Two, while I've taken astronomy classes and I know the words, I'm not going to assume everybody else has, because it's the only place I ever heard the term planetesimal in my fucking life.
The hydrogen and helium gas. Finally, the planets are baked by the starlight and lose some gas at a certain mass.
Yeah, until they develop
the gas and become
an
gaseous
atmosphere.
Neptunes. Below this threshold, the planets lose all their gas, becoming rocky super Earths. There's lots of problems with this, though.
The fact that it resembles what we see within our galaxy, which is literally the only example we have to go on with certainty.
Is there, though, Jeffrey?
Okay.
Because after your last performance, I don't think that there is.
Where do I start? Okay, here we go. Rocky building blocks. Let's start with the very beginning. Rocky building blocks, where things are really small. Cobblestone-sized objects, pebbles, gas and dust. And I have here, how do you make rocks and minerals? Heat and pressure. All geology students know this. I learned this when I was going to University of Maryland when I took geology. It takes heat and pressure to form rocks and minerals.
Oh my god. It takes heat and energy to form rocks and minerals on a planet. Within space, you're working with different thing. For instance, if you go to the moon, because there's no atmosphere, where the sun hits the moon is hotter than it is anywhere on the earth. There's your heat. There's your heat right there. Now, where are you getting pressure? Probably from colliding into each other. Bam. That's pressure. This isn't rocket science. I guess kind of it is because it's space, but you're not building a rocket, you're going into space. You're literally just observing it.
Yes, it does, but what has that got to do with anything?
That's how diamonds are formed. That's how all rocks are formed. So to say there are...
Nobody said diamonds were fucking flying around in space, you nut job. What are you doing?
Existing rocks in outer space begs the question. What object had the heat and immense pressure to form them?
Oh, what objects in space are associated with huge amounts of heat and pressure?
The big thing in the sky that gives off a bunch of fucking light, maybe?
Now that is a tough one.
How did these rocks form? What's all this over here? There's no process here? They just appeared out of nothing? How do you...
Oh my god. So you're just looking at the diagram and assuming it's the whole process. Holy shit.
Dead matter of previous stars. So all of that gas and dust that's knocking around, which eventually, over the course of millions of years, goes on to form smaller rocks and then planetesimals, is there because a star died or went supernova in that vicinity. That is why.
That is the belief for how we have younger star systems. For instance, where we are at in our galaxy, our little corner of the known universe and mapped universe, would be roughly 1/4 as old as what we consider to be or calculate to be the oldest portion of the known universe. Now, what Simon Dan just explained is how you have these different ages within the universe. Is a star ages, it dies, and then recycles through this process of regathering dust, reforming into new suns and new planets. And that's a process. That's the theory for that. The thing is, this had to start somewhere, right? Which they go, oh, well, the Big Bang. And you have people who are like, well, God said it was. So, here's the thing. Something had to exist with heat and pressure, okay? It had to. You had to have a star somewhere for all of it to happen. So, the thing is, you could literally be right through both versions of what I gave you. You could look at it from a religious view and say, well, God said, let there be light. And you'd be like, okay, yeah, and then, look, a star. But then how did the universe expand and grow? Because we know that there's more than just us. It's not just Earth and the sun and the planets we see. There's far more than that. So, how did you get everything? Okay, both things can be true. The fact is, people just want to wage a war on both things from their individual perspective, and I think it's folly, because we have no idea how this whole thing started. It is literally all a theory and a guess and faith. It's just a matter of if you have faith in science or you have faith in a supreme being. Either way requires faith. So, Simon Dan's explanation is correct. However, this guy's requirement that there be somewhere that this came from originally still stands. Where did it start? Now, you could have atoms that just flew around in space, slowly over time running into each other, bonding, and then formed into a star, and then everything went from there. You could have that be the case. The thing is, it still all had to start somewhere, somehow, at a very small scale, and grow into what it is today.
2. Says here, the rocky building blocks become a rocky cores. So then the next step is this stuff self-assembles and becomes a rocky core.
Self-assembly is not the whole story. They
Oh my God.
Under the influence of gravity.
Anybody that's played billiards knows this is very strange reasoning. Inertial momentum just doesn't disappear when you want it to.
Please tell me he's not about to do this.
It is a
Oh, he is.
called conservation
I'm letting him cook.
of momentum. That's why every single time you hit the cue ball against the numbered ones, no matter how fast you hit them, they will dissipate. Anybody that's played pool knows if you take the cue ball and you set it up and you rack the numbered balls and you hit the cue ball against the numbered balls dissipate. Everybody knows that.
You see, the problem with this argument is, as far as we know, Earth is the only place in the universe where you can play billiards. And on Earth, you've sort of got something which stops the billiard balls from being attracted to each other, and that is, of course, Earth itself. Now, those rocky cores form because they are out in interstellar space, where no other object's gravitational influence can stop them from coalescing.
also, on top of that, you have these billiards that are made out of specific materials, and they're designed to work this way. You don't have, like, you have to understand rocks that form in space, right? Through this process of just smashing into each other and coalescing and bonding and going through this growth. They don't have the same kind of heat and pressure as they would on a planet that's exerting the heat from the core as well as the heat from the sun on the surface, as well as all the pressure from the core and the gravity from the core of the planet, as well as the gravity exuded from the star, as well as in our case the moon. Like, all these things play an effect on the amount of pressure that's caused, and that causes the density to exist. The fact is, in space, you're missing that huge component. So these are going to be much more loosely gathered, and you're going to be more capable of just crushing into something and moving with it, right? Because you don't have, once again, anything to stop it. Like Simon and Dan said, you just hit it and keep going because you're just in space and you're revolving and orbiting around something that has a much larger density of mass and thus gravity than the first object or the second object. Therefore, you stay in orbit with each other, and over time, the heat and pressure from the gravity of the sun and the brightness of that star and the flame that it is forms you into one thing.
Because of the conservation of momentum. The momentum of that cue ball is transferred to all those balls down the table, which then dissipate.
Yes. It's a bad argument. What else have you got?
It's a terrible argument.
Gas. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a little-known fact of nature is that gas will always move from a higher pressure to the lower pressure. It is gas diffusion.
That's not little known at all. It's basic.
Etc. operate off this basic principle. What they're saying here is that gas moves from the vacuum, which is the lowest pressure possible in nature, which is outer space, to an area of higher pressure. Gas doesn't do that.
Well, I would argue that it does, where in interstellar space, the difference in pressures create a force that is weaker than the gravitational force.
Exactly. So you have a weaker force in space. You have gravity that pulls. That's why you have the more dense atoms of gases that coalesce toward sea level. And then you have lighter gases. For instance, let's just say helium, since you could put that in a balloon as an example and let go of it. What happens? It floats up. Why does it float up? It floats up because it is less dense than the other atoms in the atmosphere until it reaches the point where it fits in, and then it stops. Because of the gravity, the rotation of the Earth, the magnetic fields, all working together to form an atmosphere. And within that atmosphere, the Earth's gravity, its magnetic fields, and these things that we've already gone over are able to work as a way to hold the fucking air in the bubble.
If it did, then your tires in your car would never go flat, basketballs would always self-inflate without a pump, and your vacuum cleaner would not work.
Space isn't a true vacuum either.
Here on Earth. You can't use them as a comparison.
Notice how they have this step right here where they say, oh, well, you're just going to add gas. Well, it's interesting to note that if you see gas there, the astronomers go, well, I see gas there that way, therefore it was added. They don't ever consider the physical implications of it.
No, they do.
Gas and add it to an area of higher pressure when the surrounding area around that object is vacuum.
You see, most of the gas in these Neptune-like planets act as a liquid.
Now's the time to find your perfect rhyme.
Like, this guy really just printed off a diagram and assumed he understood how all of it works based on the diagram that's used as like a single slide in a whole PowerPoint to give an actual lesson on how this works and how these things make sense. And he didn't actually listen to the lesson. He just took the slide and made up bullshit. It's incredible to watch. Fuck.
Call it metallic hydrogen. Again, you just can't compare it to gases here on Earth.
Number 4, heat. Heat flows from the hotter object to the colder.
Like it.
Basic.
Oops. So what he says right here is actually very valid. Let's listen to it again.
Most of the gas in these Neptune-like planets act as a liquid. We call it metallic hydrogen. Again, you just can't compare it to gases here on Earth.
So right there, right, these Neptune-like planets, and you cannot compare them to gases on Earth. You really can't. You have to understand, if you're looking at planets, right, the way that they are around just even our own galaxy and around our solar system and our sun, rather, is the fact that we have the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. And in astronomy, they depict where that line is. Well, I say don't depict it, that's the wrong word. But they utilize where the asteroid belt is basically as a description of when you're outside of, I'd assume it's a ratio. It just said that it had like a calculation, a physics calculation, and I didn't take physics, so I don't know what the calculation was. But based on the mass of the sun, within a certain radius of that sun, you're going to have planets that are inhospitable, like Mercury, right? And then you end up about where Venus is to a little past Mars. You end up in the Goldilocks zone, which is where you're capable of having liquid water. So you're too close to the sun, you evaporate all the water, you don't really hold any gases in the atmosphere because the intensity of the sun is too much and it'll actually strip the atmosphere. Therefore, you're not capable of holding gases. Imagine that. And then you get to a point where you're outside of the Goldilocks zone, right? Which we have the asteroid belt there in our solar system, and then you have Jupiter. All of a sudden, you go from these rocky planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, we're all rocky, asteroid-like planets. Then all of a sudden, you're at Jupiter. Like, does this guy not understand these Neptune-like planets are planets that are beyond the scope of the asteroid belt? They're gas planets. He's talking about gaseous planets. He's not even talking about the same kinds of planets as Earth. He's literally talking about gas planets. Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, however you want to say it today. These, like, you're not talking about the same thing. They're different planets. And if you look at Jupiter, it has a moon, which I just spacing out on the name of the moon, but the moon is basically just water. You know how it's there? Ice. It's all ice. It's basically a moon of ice that is all water. And we theorize that under that is liquid water. And I believe we've actually proven this through images from satellites that we've sent into Jupiter, right? If they've orbited Jupiter, taken photos of some of these moons, and then bam, crash into it. Titan, actually, I think is the name of the planet, or the moon is Titan. So the point is, this guy's not even comparing the right kinds of planets. He's literally stuck on this example for Neptune-like planets, and he does not understand there's a difference.
Number 4, heat. Heat flows from the hotter object to the colder naturally. This is basic thermodynamics called the second law of thermodynamics. Heat never flows in the opposite direction of its own accord. And what that means is they have planets as giant self-induced heat pumps. They have planets as objects that can pump heat into themselves from the vacuum without mechanism. So basically, they're self-induced heat pumps which pull the vacuum material from the vacuum onto itself, or the heat from the vacuum onto itself. Mind you, the vacuum is a hell of a lot colder than the object they're trying to form.
See, I wish he would stop covering the bottom of it, because I'm pretty sure the bottom of it is actually not Neptunian planets. I think the bottom of it is Earth, more Earth-like planets.
Very, very, very weird.
Well,
But he's not.
really.
He's also ignoring the differences between those two sections, right? The top section that's blue, these mini Neptunes, right? So these would be the gaseous planets. He's ignoring these obvious differences between them, right? And these ones I'm assuming are the Earth-like planets. So Similar. Look at how much more gas is here than there is here. Look at how much gas is here with heat and how much gas is here with heat. Oh, it's kind of like this was set up to be part of a lecture that he didn't listen to.
It's very, very, very weird.
Well,
That you didn't listen to the lecture, yeah.
Accretion will absolutely cause heat with the constant collisions. Anyway, Jeffrey has a solution for all of this. Let's hear it.
But take a good look at this.
Yeah, see, Neptune's super Earths. So it is basically what I was saying. There's explanation here that I'm sure that whoever put together this slide actually explains to explain to you why these are two separate things, why this looks different from this, why this process and this process are similar but different, and he is absolutely oblivious to 100% of it.
How do we solve this issue?
You listen to the actual lecture.
Well, it's very easy to solve it. They have it backwards.
Oh my God.
From the larger objects over here. And then it goes to the right. So you have an object that starts really, really big and hot. It loses its heat. It loses its gas. Then you end up with a little core, and that core smashes into other cores, making little bits and pieces.
Right. So I guess the obvious question is then, where did that planet come from in the first place? Ah, I know. The first video we looked at of yours, you talked about planets are nothing but old stars. Okay. So where do those stars come from in the first place then?
It's really that simple.
Exactly.
Here's the diagram of the process.
See, we've literally reached the point where we've come full circle to where when I was criticizing Simon Dan, leaving out like, okay, but like this all has to start somewhere, right? You can't just go, oh, well, it comes from stars, and then it does that. You have to start somewhere. And the fact is, if you actually go through the whole theory, which Simon Dan just left it out, honestly, is that it starts with atoms colliding into each other. That's how science explains this. Atoms colliding into each other develops into a sun. Coalesces into having gravity, heat, pressure. Builds planets. Star dies, planets fly off. Other things collide into this giant mass that used to be a star. The star turns into a black hole or a white dwarf or something along these lines. And the theories continue forward from there into what we have today. This guy literally just went full circle on us and went, stars die, and that's how you get planets. They're dead star stuff. And then doesn't have an explanation for where the fuck any of this comes from. He just assumes that, I guess these are all God's poops flying around in space, and we just don't know how any of it works. We're all living on God's poops, and those poops sometimes are stars, and when those stars die, they become planets, and then those planets are, we just don't know where anything began anymore because it's all a circle of shit.
Once the object is really hot and bright, born from some really powerful electromagnetic event.
Ah, a really powerful electromagnetic
Like a
event.
supernova?
How very mysterious. You see, I have studied this before, and at this point, I'd be referring you to something called Jean's mass. Now, Jean's mass is the mass required for a cloud of interstellar gas and dust to start contracting under its own weight to start the process of star formation. If the mass of this...
See, that's the kind of thing that you would see in this textbook that I took, or the textbook that I have from my astronomy class in college, that I was always like, okay, that's the math for it that space people understand, not this guy. This guy just wants to understand a little bit of some space stuff on a surface level-ish so that I can understand to some extent what the fuck is going on, because I'm curious and I like space, but I am not that interested in math.
If the cloud is greater than Jean's mass, then star formation is inevitable. An electromagnetic event implies that radiation is already present. You won't believe how many takes that took. Electromagnetic event implies that radiation is all. Electromagnetic event implies that radiation is also. An electromagnetic event implies that radiation. An electromagnetic. Which means that whatever that is must have been made too. You see the problem here, Jeffrey?
It expands outwards, gets to its largest extent. That heat dissipates, the gas dissipates, and through this process in the interior, it forms that rocky core. So remember from the beginning when I said, well, how do you form these little rocks and minerals?
So if he'd listened to the lecture, what he would have heard is how this gas doesn't dissipate. The gas actually gets condensed by the gravity of the young planet that is forming, and it becomes part of that planet. It becomes the atmosphere and such, which, again, that's how the hell you end up with this versus this. Because in gaseous planets, gas giants, you have this happen, where you have a core surrounded by gas. On the Earth-like planets, not the same thing, which, once again, seems to be heavily due to the vicinity to the sun.
Well, those are the end processes. What actually happens in the star is the interior is forming that giant rocky ball.
He has not explained this once.
Then the gas dissipates over time. See, the heat and pressure to form those rocks happened much, much earlier in the star's history.
That would mean that the Milky Way alone will be scattered with all of this material from dead stars. We just don't see it. But what we do see, though, is plenty of evidence of dead stars, nebulae,
yes,
black holes, neutron stars, everywhere. I'm sorry, Jeffrey.
Recorded supernova events where we've actually, people have reported, like ancient civilizations and things of this nature have reported seeing stars flare up and then fade from existence, which we now understand to most likely be eyewitness testimony to witnessing a supernova in a distant galaxy from here on Earth.
But whilst your theories are interesting, they just don't match observation. Well, there we go. A fascinating look at Jeffrey Walensky there and his theories regarding planets. Not entirely stupid, but wrong all the same. Right, we are done.
Very highly uninformed. That's how I would describe it.
So much for watching. Just a reminder, if you like these sort of t-shirts, then have a look on the website in the description. There's a few other variants, so check those out. And of course, if you like today's video, please do smash that like button and consider subscribing.
I always forget to click the like buttons. Please do so.
Again, we're going for that 500,000.
I always forget they're there until someone mentions it.
For sponsoring today. Remember, visit surfshark.deals/SimonDan and use the code SimonDan for that whopping 83% off and 3 months extra free. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great week. Now, I will be taking a 2-week break as normal around this time of year, and Friday will be the first guest creator, which you'll all be pleased to hear is the brilliant Dave McKeegan. See you then.
I actually want to add that video to this playlist as well. I saw this thumbnail, and I just want to add this one to my playlist real quick before I move away. This one. Alright, so I think,
ladies and gentlemen, today
it took us away.
3 years ago.
So I think that this video is very well done on Simon Dan's part, and that Jeff there is, you know, he's a special cookie. He's a special cookie. He's clearly, like the telescopes and lenses and stuff back here, he's clearly got some form of knowledge. He's just completely oblivious to the reason that astronomy has the beliefs and theories that it has. Like, he hasn't done the research into it. He's gone, they're full of shit, and just discards everything they have to say, which, taking things from science with a grain of salt is fair play. Because they are theorizing, they're testing things, and to get to the correct answer, they are wrong over and over and over and over again, and then they find the answer that they're able to replicate over and over and over and over again. And that's how they come up with, yeah, we think this is the correct theory because we've tested it about 1 billion times, and it seems to always come out roughly the same. So, it's fair play to be skeptical of science because they may still be studying that specific chunk of science, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong about everything.